How can fandom be toxic?
Can we make it happen?
What is toxic fandom and what is not toxic fandom?
We're seeing toxic fandom sort of on the rise with Little Mermaid, with Star Wars, with everything sort of coming out of it.
But there are always going to be a small yet vocal group of people there can kind of just be toxic.
The Star Wars fan base really seems to be the most kind of toxic at the moment.
Toxic fandom.
Toxic fandom.
Toxic fandom.
Marvel has toxic fandoms. DC, Star Wars, Star Trek, everybody has a toxic fandom. It's this toxic fandom that's a problem.
And so the more we can put our stories out there and the more we can even center queer or trans narratives as the main focus point of our stories, that is important, even if sometimes they're not going to sell.
Thank you, David. Cool.
Yes, indeed, we are here doing a video on an article about me.
Nerdrotic.com.
Now, there is a point to this, a revelation, or as they like to say in Hollywood, a teachable moment that has nothing to do with yours truly or any of you 682,000 plus maniacs who have subscribed to this channel, or the 40% who haven't yet. The "you" in this video's title is referring directly to the corporate access media. Woke Hollywood tricked you into defending them. Now, far be it from me to absolve all the willing and able participants in the access media who have attacked the fans over the years, and if I tried to do that, I would be absolutely wrong. But let's go on a little cope journey, shall we? This is an old article that I just found about a week ago. It's a Swedish article that I couldn't understand, but thanks to Google Translate, we're gonna do our best. It's called Arbetet, the Nerd Rage that tricks us into defending Amazon. From the left comes a franchise. From the right comes a dude who is cursed. I don't feel cursed. Writes a lot of vagina. I'm sorry, Lada Ilana Harinen. Mo. That's right. She said, we trick the access media into defending Amazon. Oh, no, but let's go. Often these articles written about yours truly or any of my contemporaries out there, or anyone who just puts something on Twitter, ends up being an attack. You're an ist, a phobe, but we never really argue about the merits of said television show, like The Rings of Power, or She-Hulk, or Velma, or Blood Origin, or anything else I've covered. And this article is no different, but sometimes, aside from being great advertising for our channels, they end up making points for us that are better than the points we made ourselves. It's unintentional, of course, but that's what's funny about it. Reconnaissance. Geek autumn is here. No, winter has come. 2 weeks ago, HBO kicked off its Game of Thrones prequel, House of the Dragon. Disney continues to pump out its MCU multiverse with the series She-Hulk and the film Black Panther 2: Wakanda Forever. But the crowning glory of the whole party must still be Amazon's billion-dollar disaster production, Rings of Power. 20 years after Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings, we now return to Middle-earth. Enter Nerd Rage. Nerd Rage is a type of content storm that occurs on social media when a global entertainment giant releases a new franchise and subverts it, preferably based on 50-year-old comic books that they completely ignore the source material, and century-old fantasy books where they destroy legacy characters. But let's not get bogged down with the real reasons the fans/paying customers are upset. Let's let her continue. In basements, or upstairs bedrooms, and student corridors around the Western world, Rode microphones and camera tripods are brought out as fans and culture warriors tear apart every single trailer, interview, and leaked script line. Aside from the fact that this has been going on in fandom since it was invented, let's just go over briefly some clips from trailers of the two most recent woke disasters.
This is my story, told my way. She has no brain! I'm not dissing her. She has no brain!
You know what 420 is, right?
Yeah. It's code for adults who still watch cartoons.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Outcasts, strangers to each other, bound together to fight an unstoppable empire.
This is the future under the Empire. We need to rise up!
I swore I'd kill you if we ever crossed paths again.
How can we trust each other?
By the blade.
Can't imagine why anybody wouldn't like that. And then, of course, there's the interviews.
I think it is time. I think with a franchise of this scale, it is so important that we make it as accessible as we possibly can.
This to me just feels like something that has just the furthest possible reach, and, you know, we're choosing to tell it in these times, so we should represent it for these times.
And with absolutely no apologies when I get a verifiable plot leak or script leak that I know is shit, I'm gonna say it's shit. Anyway, back to the article. But what is this? A dwarf without a beard? What do we have here? A black Valerian? Rage! Notice that Lotta here decides to once again focus on race. And this is the point where we need to talk about the oversaturation of electronic and access media. And thankfully, it's dying, because you and I are the giant meteor descending on the dinosaur legacy media. But this is part of the trick. When the access and entertainment media decide to wade into waters they know little about, like the writings of Tolkien, Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, Marvel Comics, DC Comics, The Witcher, I could go on. They fall back on what all the underqualified bloggers with useless degrees and massive student debt fall back on: identity politics. And this is where virtue casting comes in. The virtue casting of actors and or producers, writers, and directors. Hiring human beings, and more importantly, not hiring other human beings based solely on their identity, and this really has nothing to do with talent. Yes, this is a massive red flag, and yes, we have provided plenty of evidence.
Schaefer can be quoted, "There was never any conscious intention on my part to create any Mephisto red herrings, because I didn't know who Mephisto was until I started doing press."
I wasn't super into superhero comics when I was a kid. I read a lot of like indie press stuff.
Were you guys familiar with the film previously? Did you watch it? Were you a hardcore fan like I am, or?
I hadn't seen it before this.
And then you?
I hadn't seen it.
He's like, "So, have you seen Willow?" And I was like, "Oh, no."
I was advised not to play the game, but I just watched some of the gameplay though, secretly.
Ultimately, all we fans / paying customers care about is the story. That's why I'm glad Lotta,
a lot for China,
brought up House of the Dragon along with the Rings of Power, because that's a pretty good comparison of really good and really bad. In House of the Dragon, I was skeptical about the Black Valerians because within the story, there is a paternity issue that would have made it obvious. But aside from the bad wigs, they made it work, and it was clever. On the other hand, with the Rings of Power, it was pure and simple virtue casting, so they can go out on the red carpet and say this over and over.
So I play the character of Princess Disa. She is the first female dwarf that we will ever see on screen. Woo, woo, woo! Yeah.
There will no longer be a time where you can say there are no elves of color. So we erased that one, you know? This conversation will never be there. Oh, no, I'm an elf.
You are such a champion for folks with, performers with disabilities, and you're a woman of color as well, and making sure that there's representation.
A lot of people are going to see themselves as superheroes for the first time.
So what I love about being a part of this universe is the diversity and the inclusion, and so people can recognize that people who look like you are out here.
As I stated in multiple Rings of Power videos, Amazon and the actors working on the Rings of Power knowingly pushed a lie. Sophia Novetti was not the first female dwarf in a Tolkien production, and she wasn't the first dwarf of color in a Hollywood production. And Don Lemonless was not the first elf of color. But again, they knew all this and used individuals' identities to protect the most important color: green, the money. And they don't really care how many people they need to divide to do it. And the willing and able access media is right there to help corporations like Amazon and Disney. Oh, I almost forgot. The Rings of Power announced that they're going to have all female directors for season 2.
a lot for China.
Is going to make it better, and yes, I'm going to get as much mileage as I possibly can from that clip. Apologies, this is the part of the article where it gets to me. Immerse yourself in Nerdrotic. I'm going to use that. Before I continue, I must delve specifically into the YouTube channel Nerdrotic, not least because editor Clennell, or Kinnell, not sure, asked me to watch a little extra on this channel, even though I had already torn my hair out over said channel in front of said editor. Believe me, the feeling is mutual after reading trash Access Media articles for a few years. Nerdrotic is a middle-aged man, true, with a long beard, true, taped glasses, untrue, they're not taped, and bags under his eyes about the size you'd expect a man who thinks too much about intersectional feminism to have.
Found me. You saved me.
I've had an upgrade.
Can't imagine why I have bags under my eyes. I'm just grateful I haven't lost my sanity. Aside from the ill-advised personal attack from Alada.
Alada Fachan.
I think the rest of this could be a pretty good channel description. Every other day he posts, wait a minute, I do not post every other day. 1 or 2 videos with titles like The Rings of Power Cringe, a classic, Woke Batman Canceled, It Was True, and She-Hulk is an Abomination. Now that was a great title. There's nuance there that no one in the Access Media would understand. Nerdrotic has renamed the Marvel Cinematic Universe abbreviated MCU to the MCU, you're damn right. And his strongest argument against the Rings of Power seems to be that it is made-up fanfiction. True. The showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay said that they were going to honor the source material, which was a lie, which a lot of Tolkien fans suspected, and they ended up being right. And it looks like a little bit was lost in translation, so I'll try to fix this. And that Anatar/Sauron looks too hunky.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
For one, Anatar wasn't in it. It was Halbrand, a made-up character who was never meant to be Sauron. I don't know about hunky, but Anatar was supposed to be so angelic and ethereal, it was impressive to other elves.
Nerd alert!
Now here is where she makes our point for us, but we'll have to wait for it because she gets into the algorithm. Perfect for the algorithm. The point of channels like Nerdrotic, a channel with 500,000 subscribers, 682,000, thank you very much, by YouTube standards, is perfect for the algorithm. Oh, really? Me, a simple Swedish-ish girl, well, I'm not going to doubt you're simple, but I'm going to take the high road, Lotta, and not make any personal attacks.
Mole.
With no interest in MAGA hats or conspiracy theories, gets him up all the time. Whoa. 2 things there. Number 1, your political bias is showing, and number 2, my wife gets me up all the time, and that's all I need. Algorithms are closely held trade secrets for Google, which owns YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, because they control our entire user and thus purchase and ad viewing behavior. Well, thank you for that lesson and talking to us like we're 5-year-olds. Was this article written by John Campea?
I hunted.
Again, some of this is lost in translation, so I'll do my best. The details are shrouded in hellcracks, obscurity, bad analogy, but it can be summed up in the simplest form like this. People act on emotions, especially anger. Emotions keep people around. So the algorithm rewards your outburst of anger. Wow, that was pretty simple, and this one isn't. For or against doesn't matter, as long as you get angry at the phenomenon the clip depicts, or at the clip's depiction of the phenomenon. What?
He who questions training only trains himself at asking questions.
What?
Combine that with a movie or TV series that has a multi-billion-dollar company like Disney or Amazon behind it, and you have a perfect storm. From the left comes a franchise. Well, thank you for admitting that they're coming from the left. From the right comes a dude who's pissed off. Well, that's where you're wrong. Yes, I've been pissed off, but I don't come from the right. I'm just not into vilifying anybody who does. Shh, don't tell anybody. This is strictly between you and I. I am a lifelong independent. I'm one of those people who votes by the issue. I don't really care what side it comes from as long as it doesn't inhibit our personal and individual freedom. As far as algorithms are concerned, you're absolutely right. They are manipulative, but I can't say that goes both ways because they tend to favor people on the Access Media side of the street. For the very same reasons Lotta
Fachan
pointed out. The vast majority of people on our side of the street are individuals who can decide things for themselves, so please don't project your Access Media lack of standards on us. But wait, there's more. Progressive in nerd rage. Again, that might be lost in translation. Suddenly, as a progressive, you find yourself in a nerd rage of your own. tricked into defending slave-driving companies like Amazon, celebrating mediocre TV series as the most groundbreaking feminism since Judith Butler's Gender Trouble. Ooh, just missed it. Almost got there. This is despite the fact that it would actually be more woke if the dwarf women were allowed to have their authentic beards. It wouldn't be more woke, it would be authentic, something you and your ilk in the access media have no concept of. And the girl Hulk can talk about female wrath all she wants. There won't be any feminist statement until Disney's horny executives dare to release a female Hulk who is ugly and terrifying as her cousin. Well, they actually did in the comics, and it totally failed, but you wouldn't know that because you didn't do any research.
That is why you fail.
You see, the access media created us because we filled a need, and we are now the alternative entertainment media. The currency of virtue signaling has bottomed out, and the currency of the future is authenticity. Bottom line, the giant corporations knew that they could count on the mainstream media and the access media's limited knowledge of the material and political bias to do their bidding. That's right, woke Hollywood tricked you in the access media into defending them, and you were there for it. You played yourself. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.
Nerdrotic.com.
Mole, 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 mole.